Two of my favorite games are Plants vs Zombies and FNAF Freddy's. I absolutely love both franchises, and honestly, I can't help but fixate on them. But the more I think about it, the more I see a lot of similarities. They're both two video game franchises that in my opinion have really downgraded quality-wise through time, unfortunately. Like Security Breach.
And you are going to be able to talk better.
Or PVZ Replanted.
For me personally, some of the details that I really like are Dr. Zomboss's theme song. It plays on the final level and it only plays for a short clip. And really, if you're not paying attention, you might miss it.
I think I've talked enough on why I don't like PVZ Replanted. But that's not the only thing that makes them similar. Technically, they're both point-and-click games. You place plants, you click doors, and that makes me wonder, can I beat both of these games at the same time? I mean, it shouldn't be too hard, right? So before I start, obviously I have to set up some rules. Rule 1. I have to start both games at the same time. This is obvious, of course. Rule 2. If I die in one, I have to restart in the other as well, no matter what. If I get jump scared, I have to restart whatever PVZ level I'm in. This is probably gonna get me frustrated, but rules are rules. And lastly, rule 3. If I beat one before the other, I have to progress further. One FNAF night is 8 minutes and 55 seconds, and a PVZ level is typically 3 to 7 minutes, so yes, levels do end around the same time. Of course, PVZ is longer than FNAF in terms of content, so of course, I have to amplify the challenge a bit. If I do beat FNAF 1, I'm gonna advance to FNAF 2, and vice versa. But I highly doubt I'll be able to advance to FNAF 3 or anything. Both FNAF 1 and 2 take 2 to 3 hours to complete, while PVZ takes around 4 to 5 hours too. So yeah, statistically, I'll only be able to beat FNAF 1 and 2. Now let's see if I can beat FNAF and PVZ at the same time. So there's one particular problem. Plants vs Zombies is not widescreen, which isn't a big deal, but the problem is that when you switch tabs, the game will pause automatically. This obviously creates a huge issue as I can't play FNAF and PVZ simultaneously. I mean, I can play PVZ Replanted, but I want the OG PVZ. And so I decided to install a PVZ widescreen mod. Not only does it have the same aspect ratio as PVZ Replanted, but it also gives high quality renders that aren't AI generated, which is pretty neat. In terms of FNAF Freddy's, thankfully the game continues to run in the background, so I'll indeed be able to play both at the same time. I guess we'll see if FNAF 2 does the same thing as well. But yeah, night 1. We waited for the newspaper, and as soon as the night 1 logo appeared, I started the game. Night 1 somehow felt so much longer than it usually does. I was able to beat 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, and just a teensy tiny bit of 1-4 while I played. Obviously, this was pretty easy as you don't have to do much for the first night. Well, actually, you're not supposed to do much, but just my luck, Foxy started moving for the first night. The reason why this happened was because I didn't use the cameras that much or even at all during this night, as I presumed that you didn't need to use it. His AI actually starts at 0 at night 1, but then switches to 1 when Phone Guy stops talking around 2 AM. He actually has an AI level of 2 by 4 AM, believe it or not, which I could tell as he reaches final stage. I think this is a way of the game telling me I need to lock in terms of using my camera. I definitely got a little distracted playing. I also noticed that the PVZ widescreen was not doing it for me. What I mean is that I don't have a second screen. I only have one monitor, so the games end up looking like this. This means that PVZ is partially hidden, so I feel like it's extra hard. I can't switch from one game to another, I have to move them around as FNAF is locked. I can't move it at all. Thankfully, the widescreen folder does come with both the widescreen version and the original PVZ's 800 by 600 ratio that doesn't pause when I'm switching. I did have to lower FNAF screen size just a little, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. It was a problem. I couldn't see the doors, and the non-widescreen version is buggy because the game's files are meant to be for widescreen. So what I did do is I got the coding file of FNAF, went on its engine, clicked Infusion, adjusted some settings so I'm able to switch from one screen to another, and the game will still run fire. But yeah, the first night, very simple. Only because the first 3 levels of PVZ are really easy. Let's just hope I can stay consistent and this doesn't fall apart. Night 2 for some reason felt a little more difficult than the first night. Mostly because obviously the AI levels go up. Like Foxy, which is the biggest problem as I get myself distracted in PVZ. and one extra second or two of Foxy not being checked on can get me killed. And Foxy's AI levels goes up to 3 by 4 AM. Bonnie was definitely aggressive as he starts off at 3 then goes all the way up to 5 by 4 AM. Though if you viewers know anything about FNAF AI, it gets worse. Foxy did reach his final stage, but that's because at the same time, I had to do walnut bowling, and it felt like walnuts were taking forever to load. So I had to get myself sidetracked waiting for a walnut as I'm stubborn and I did not want to lose any lawnmowers. I don't know if it's because I'm multitasking now, but it felt like there were so many more zombies. My strategy at the moment is that in FNAF 1, I go from left, then right, I open the camera to look at Foxy, go back down, quickly check PVZ, as thankfully PVZ is a slow game, then go back to FNAF and do that same process. By the time I complete night 2, I'm starting off at 1-6. Night 3 is when things start off pretty easy, but then get a little harder later on. I always called this night the Chica night, as Chica immediately starts off aggressive, with an AI level of 5 from 12 AM to 1 AM, then 6 at 3 AM, then 7 for later on. This is a good thing, as I can strictly concentrate on the right doorway as Bonnie does not move until around 2 AM, where he's supposed to start moving, though believe it or not, he didn't really move around 3 and 4 AM as well. Him and Freddy were just chilling there most of the time, and I was able to concentrate on strictly that right doorway, opening the camera for Foxy and looking at PVZ. Since these steps were so simple, I was able to play 1-6 without much interruptions. FNAF was just there. There was pole vaulting zombies, but if you played PVZ long enough, you know they're not really a problem. I'm able to reach 1-7 and thankfully I reached 3 to 4 lanes of attack plants. I specify this because this is very beneficial to me. What I mean is, as soon as it hit 5 AM, everything hit the fan. Bonnie started moving, but the worst part, Freddy started moving too. His AI supposedly stays at 1 the whole night, but I stopped watching the show stage at some point, so obviously Freddy started moving. Immediately, I would continuously flip from Pirate Cove to the East Hall corner just to make sure that Freddy doesn't reach that far. By this point, since I had all my undivided attention to FNAF, I ignored Plants vs Zombies. Not because I forgot about it, but like I said, I had 4 lanes of attack plants by that point, so I didn't have to give all my attention to it. I did blow up a crowd of zombies in the last wave though. Funny enough, this is the first time I finished a FNAF night and a PVZ level at the same time. That's pretty neat. So this gave me a new strategy. I'm gonna have to set up the best lawn possible in PVZ early on into the night so I don't have to pay so much attention to it by the time the animatronics are moving faster and the AI gets more aggressive. I can just let the plants do their thing and I only pop in when I really have to. Night 4 was really stressful. I did not know that playing FNAF and PVZ at the same time could have me biting my finger. I have a tendency to bite my finger when I'm super concentrated and super anxious, so I probably could have bit my thumb off as I played. So, the beginning of Night 4 involved me switching from the stage to Pirate's Cove. I generally don't know why I did this as Foxy does not need to be checked directly. I think I knew this but thought it was wrong since there was a huge issue in my first Night 4 run. Foxy got out of his cave more than once. The reason why this happens is something called the 5-second roll. Foxy has a movement opportunity every 5.01 seconds to move. If you flip the cameras up during these intervals, Foxy will fail outside movement and he won't progress to his next stage. Once cameras go down though, Foxy actually will continue to fail his movements for a random amount of time, though this is what messed me up. Once this random timer ends after the cameras go down, Foxy has a bonus movement opportunity before that 5.01 second cooldown. This is why since I took a few seconds too long to place some attack plans down, Foxy went from stage 1 to his last stage. And obviously at some point I took too long again, around 1-9, which is when things get only a little bit more intense, where Foxy ran towards my office, and the more he runs towards your office, the more power you lose. Because of this, I was losing power significantly worse. This was my problem. I assume since 1.8 introduced Buckethead zombies and 1.9 obviously has them too, I had to put extra attention towards both PVZ, but I was very wrong. Technically, as soon as I place down a pea shooter and a snow pea, I don't have to worry about this level as not only as there's not that many swarms, 2 of these set plants can kill a Buckethead zombie automatically. So I didn't really need more than 3 lanes of attack plants. so I was worrying way too much about PVZ, which led to my demise. I lost power around 5 AM and Freddy killed me, forcing me to restart both games. I was midway through 192, so obviously this was very frustrating. We were so close. On my second try, I learned my lesson and took it easy with PVZ. I was slow and put more of my effort towards FNAF, looking at Foxy more than I did before to make sure he didn't progress too much so I didn't lose power this time. Somehow I was able to place 4 lanes of plants, but that's all I did. Once I placed those 4 lanes down, I left PVZ to do its thing and put all of my attention towards the last hours of FNAF like I said I would. 110 was actually way easier as I just blindlessly placed whatever pea shooters or walnuts came through the conveyor belt. I did get a little nervous as Foxy did run out and drain 2% of my battery around the last second, but we were able to beat Night 4, thank goodness. Night 5 is when animatronics are extra aggressive. Everyone's AI levels are increased in some way, with Chica being the highest, 7 to 9, and Bonnie being the second highest, 5 to 8. But Bonnie and Chica at this point aren't my biggest opponents when playing PVZ simultaneously. It's Foxy and Freddy. So I did what I should have done before. I would strictly keep the camera on the show stage so Freddy cannot move a muscle. I checked the camera a lot, just to make sure that Foxy cannot have that movement opportunity either. He actually didn't progress much throughout the night. It wasn't until 4 AM that he did skip through his final stage, but I had enough battery storage so I wasn't that paranoid. I kept myself calm. In terms of playing Plants vs Zombies, it's clear that PVZ doesn't need as much attention like FNAF does, especially when 110 is a conveyor level. And once you reach a certain amount of plants in that level, I don't think you really have to pay so much attention to it. I had 5 entire lanes of attack plants. I didn't have to be worried about messing up or anything, especially when I had some defense plants to stall. I could only spend around 3 to 4 seconds on 2-1, which wasn't so difficult as this was the beginning of a world. And the only zombies that we have in this level are basic zombies, coneheads, and newspapers. So I could depend on basic pea shooters and puffshrooms and continue on with my FNAF 1 cycle. There was a certain point in time during the last wave where I did lose a lot of plants, but with the power of walnut, everything is gonna be okay. Defense plants are gonna be very essential as I need to keep zombies occupied. So somehow we were able to beat Night 5, meaning you can indeed beat FNAF while playing PVZ. But it'd be lame to stop now in FNAF 1 and jump into FNAF 2 immediately. What if I didn't stop there? What if I gave myself a challenge? Let's do... You can indeed play PVZ and FNAF Night 6 at the same time. That's honestly pretty crazy. Then again, maybe 2-2 is just a really easy level and I got lucky? Who knows, we'll continue to test our luck in a bit, but overall, pretty stressful time I gotta say. From bouncing back and forth to 2 different games, to the fear of losing power, and somehow feeling a little overwhelmed with zombies this time. Mostly because I didn't put so much attention towards PVZ like I usually did, as night 6 was when things were getting more intense. There were other moments that made me nervous too. There was one time where Foxy ran out of his cove, as you viewers saw, around 4 AM, though it was just a minus 2% battery. Obviously, every battery percentage counts, and I thought that somehow, that very little battery drain would somehow mess my gameplay up, and I was fully convinced that was the case when the power went out. I stood there, waiting for Freddy's jingle, when suddenly, as soon as I collected my Fume Shroom seed packet, 6 AM. What I did this time is what I did on the 5th night, where I camera stopped Freddy and Foxy. Sometimes there would be audio cues that actually let me know that I didn't have to check Chica or Bonnie, so I used the time, rather than checking lights, in favor of checking Plants vs Zombies. Like if I heard kitchen noises, there's no point in checking the right doorway as Chica obviously won't be there. Or if Bonnie just left my doorway, I took the risk and simply hadn't checked this doorway after my next camera flip to plant attackers down on my lawn. Every second to check the cameras counted, so I wasn't gonna risk stalling too long or else I'd end up with another failure like what happened in night 4. But like I said in the rules guys, we're not over yet. We still have yet to beat PVZ. A part of me believes that somehow we'll reach over FNAF 2 as well. We'll see. We'll see. So with FNAF 2, I had to do what I did before. I had to do some coding. I pull out the MFA file, adjusted the setting with just 2 clicks, so I guess I can't really call it hacking unfortunately. But yeah, with that, we can do exactly what we did with FNAF 1 and PVZ, where we can switch back and forth. And another similar thing between the first game and the second, is that night 1 is a piece of cake. Literally nobody moves until around 2 AM, where Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica have an AI level of 2, then they increase by 1 afterwards, with Toy Freddy waking up with an AI level of 2 around there as well. So that means I can sit back and relax for most of the time. Well, out of boredom, I looked around the office while playing PVZ anyway. Then, the music box started to go down. And that reminds me of something. Marionette is going to be the reason why I can't leave the game for so long. In FNAF 2, the Marionette requires a lot of consistency, almost like Foxy, except I have to stay on the camera longer than simply just go on and go down. Thankfully, now I have experience with Foxy where I know that I can't just put so much attention towards Plants vs Zombies. So what I did before things just got a little bit hefty is what I'm going to try to do with every PVZ level. Since FNAF 2 is much more difficult than FNAF 1, I'm going to put 3 attack plants. Just 3, then 1 defense plant in front of it to stall higher armored zombies that can't die so easily. Then, boom. That's all I need. At least I hope that's the case. That's why I put 3 Fume Shrooms, then a Wanna, in front into 3, which handled the level perfectly. Toy Bonnie did attack a few times, but that was really it for the first night. I was able to reach a teensy tiny bit of 2-4 as well, but I was only really able to place 2 Fume Shrooms and a few Puff Shrooms. I gotta say, FNAF 2 did used to be one of my favorites but as I was a child. A lot of YouTubers agree with me personally that FNAF 2 doesn't really do ambience well like FNAF 1 does. I love FNAF 2 characters a lot, but the second game has a problem of rushing the game compared to the first. So you can't really take the time to embrace the ambience and feel nervous. I felt nervous playing the first game than the second. I'm gonna be anxious in the second game, not because it's scary, but because I'm gonna be worried I can die at any time. On night 2, since the first hour nobody turns on, I took advantage of that period of time and continued to do my 3 attack plant and 1 defense plant setup, which thankfully worked like a charm. I did get a little bit ahead of myself and replaced Sunshrooms with Snow Peas, but that was mostly because I got bored and there really wasn't much to do on PVZ and FNAF. And it's better to slow down Buckethead so I don't have to keep placing down newer defense plants. I did have to keep an open eye on FNAF 2 just a little bit more than night 1 because Marionette's AI is cramped up to 5 already. I have a feeling that she will be the most annoying with how consistent I have to be with her. Not just her, but with Withered Foxy too, who activated this night. Though he only appeared once and he disappeared pretty quickly. You know, something I learned, believe it or not, is that the flashlight's battery isn't tracked by how many times you use it, but rather how long you have it on for. What I mean by this is that every night has a certain amount of seconds you have for your flashlight. Every time you flash the hallway, the timer slowly starts going down as you hold it. I know this is random, but it's cool to see how certain mechanics work, especially when the flashlight battery gimmick is never really explained in game. Obviously, this does mean that I should spam the flashlight to take care of Withered Foxy instead of simply holding it. When I did beat Night 2 though, there was a slight issue where I had to extra lock in with PVZ, the fact that I had to play Whack a Zombie on 2.5. That level in particular isn't slow compared to other PVZ levels. It's fast paced and zombies are extra fast, and it didn't help that Toy Bunny was extra annoying. Toy Bunny is generally so obnoxious in this game.
He makes me so angry. I want to kill him.
What I did in this scenario is that every time I put on the mask, I would immediately go to PVZ and whack whatever zombies are there. Yes, they are a little quicker, but not fast enough to be too much of a problem. Let's see what happens. FNAF 2 is notoriously one of the more difficult FNAF games after all. But I think I have a way to somehow stall a certain amount of animatronics. So you're probably wondering what I meant when I said I had a way to stall some animatronics. Well, there's something called the minus toy strategy. This is technically a glitch, where I open the camera towards the music box room, then when putting it down, I quickly press the show stage camera and the game will have the show stage camera open, but will still show the music box room for some reason. So both cameras are open at the same time. This is because Clicked Fusion, the programming engine, doesn't instantly process camera movements. There's a brief interval. So I took advantage of that said interval. No, I didn't create this strategy or anything. I think it was created by Zach Scream, so thanks to him. So anyway, there's a mechanic in FNAF 2 that not many casual players know, that if you flash an animatronic on the camera, they'll be stunned for 6.66 seconds. It also resets their movement opportunity. Typically, you're not able to flash the toys in the show stage, but if you use the minus toys strategy, the game thinks you're in the prize room, so you're able to. Not only does this remove 3 animatronics, this also lowers RNG, since, you know, Toy Bonnie is a huge annoyance. This doesn't 100% work though all the time, as I would get a little distracted and completely forget to shine the prize room, giving the toys an opportunity to move. So Toy Bonnie was able to sneak an attack around 5 AM. Apart from that though, this was the night of the Withereds. Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, and Withered Chica had AI levels from 2 to 3, meaning they were appearing in the office quite a lot. Every time they did and I had to put on the mask, it would take a few seconds for them to go away. So I did what I mentioned before, and in those set intervals, I'd put my full attention towards Plants vs Zombies. There was football zombies, but thankfully 2.6 only sends in around 2. In the middle of the level, then the final, which I purely just handled with hypnoshrooms. I will admit that zombies leaving the graves will become a problem. The reason why is because when I go to PVZ, I'm only placing attack plans and the defense plans like I said I would. I'm too busy to concentrate on placing grave busters, so most of the time I'm gonna have a lot of graves on the lawn. I also ran out of a lot of flashlight battery because of how many times Withered Foxy appears. But I beat this night. I would call this one hard, but it was nothing compared to the next night. Night 4 is when I had to be extra consistent with my movement in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Flash a light, open the camera, and wind the music box. Emphasis on winding the music box because the marionette's AI levels are high now, 9 to be specific. So I can't leave the camera for so long to place plans like I did before, meaning that attack plans were being planted less frequently on 2.7 than something like 2.6 on night 3. So, the middle wave happened, and you know how I mentioned I couldn't put much grave busters? Well, it was worse this time since, like I said, I couldn't place much plants at all. So zombies got very overwhelming. This led to me concentrating on Plants vs Zombies a little too much, and Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy was chilling in the vent and did not go away. Like, I had the mask on for what felt like centuries and he just refused to leave. I had no choice but to quickly wind up the music box because it was running out, and this gave Balloon Boy the opportunity to enter the office. We all know what happens now. It was only 3 AM, so there was no escape. Withered Foxy killed me. Therefore, I had to restart 2.7.2, which sucks as I was really getting somewhere, as I had so many fume shrooms on the lawn by the time I died. For my second try, I obviously had to change things up. I concentrated more on using grave busters than before, so waves didn't feel so overwhelming. And this time, I actually remembered to bring walnuts since I low-key forgot to bring them last time. In terms of FNAF 2, I just did what I did before in hopes that Balloon Boy wouldn't camp in my office just to annoy me and mess me up. I killed Balloon Boy. Oh, and I brought snow peas. I feel like in levels that aren't roof levels, I'm always bringing snow peas. I don't know why I stopped in the night levels. They're literally the goats of PVZ. Well, until Wintermelon comes in. Sorry, Snoopy. But yeah, that was really it for Night 4. I honestly wanted to have it where I didn't die at all in FNAF 2 like the first game, but I should have known. Night 5 is my final time in FNAF 2. And holy moly, forget about me ever not dying in this game. Even if I hadn't died in Night 4, I would have most definitely died in the 5th night. Night 5 for me is difficult because it relies solely on RNG. Yes, there's technically a skill too, as you do need fast reaction time for certain things, but what makes it RNG is that every few seconds, the game picks a number from 0 to 20 and then adds a 1 to it. If the animatronic's AI is greater or equal to whatever number the engine picks, the animatronic will be able to move or attack. So yeah, I am straight up depending on luck at this moment. Technically, I did every night, but the AI levels are obviously a little higher for this 5th and last level, with the Marionette, Mangle, and Withered Foxy being the most aggressive. For some reason, Toy Freddy goes from aggressive to an AI level of 1 from 12 AM to 1 AM. That's quite the jump, but Mango is worse. They go from 1 to 10. It doesn't help that when I first started playing the 5th night, I had to do 2-8. It's not the hardest level on the night stages, but it does introduce the Disco Zombie. Formerly Michael Jackson until, you know. Disco Zombie is infamous for summoning groups of zombies, and that forces me to put extra attention towards PVZ. But you know what's good news? The Ice Room. The Ice Room freezes zombies for 3.25 seconds. Every second counts, and we all know how helpful they are installing Disco Zombies before they can summon their backup dancers. But anyway, for my first try, I died pretty quickly, which was a way of the game telling me that I'm in for a wild ride. As I was placing puff tunes for the beginning of 2-8, I did lose a few seconds of winding the music box. As I returned back to the camera, Mango appeared a second afterwards, so I couldn't wind much of it. And when I did start winding it up, he appeared again. Balloon Boy. God damn it, Balloon Boy. So yeah, he decided to stay in the vent for 900 hours again, and then he appeared in my office. So I just gave up and let Withered Body kill me. There was literally no point in continuing, obviously. My second attempt did go a little better, but there was a problem. By 2 AM, look how much battery I had. Not much, which gave me that worry that maybe I would run out before 6 AM hits. But who knows, maybe luck was by my side, so I tried my best to not use a flashlight too much. But did I really have a choice? Withered Foxy is obviously extra aggressive this night, so it's not like I couldn't use it. And I still had to stall the toys on the camera as well. By 5 AM, I ran out. Looks like luck was not by my side. The battery logo began to flash, which was the game's way of telling me that the battery counter was low. And then Tochika appears. Clearly, my stalling wasn't enough to keep her away. She stayed in the vent for quite a while. RNG was not by my side yet again, because she stayed there and she did not want to leave. So I was running out of time to wind the music box, so I went into the camera instinctively and Tochika jump scared me. At 5 AM too. You do not understand how frustrated I was. I killed Tochika. There wasn't much strategy to this night. There really isn't. I just had to hope that I survived because Plant vs. Zombies really wasn't the problem at this point. Maybe sometimes, but there were thankfully segments where I was able to sneak in a few clicks on that game here and there. Unfortunately, that was not the last time I died. My third attempt pissed me off even more than the last time, and here's why. It wasn't because the game had bad RNG, it was actually my fault. So after shooing away what felt like 100 withered animatronics, I would continue my usual pattern and Balloon Boy, that evil boy. But this time, for some reason I instinctively pulled up the camera to wind the music box even though I saw him in the vent. It's like my brain was on auto, meaning he was able to enter my office. I could not believe this. It just hit 5 AM and I had a great setup going on in PVZ. This night made me want to rip my hair out. And then my fourth attempt. Did I die? Did I not die? I didn't. I finally beat it. This time, I was careful with my battery, Balloon Boy or Tochika didn't camp out my office, and 6 AM. Yes, I was on autopilot again. It was some good timing too because I did beat 2-9 around the same time. But at the end of the day, I did indeed beat FNAF 2 while playing PVZ at the same time. This is much harder than FNAF 1, but looks like I was right. We will be playing FNAF 3 after all. So guys, I did do 210 on my own. The reason why I did this is because first of all, 210 is a piece of cake. The game gives you so much Tomb Shrooms, Ice Shrooms, and Hypno Shrooms that to be honest, it's really no problem. And second, it's because I wanted to match the number 3 with the PVZ stage. Yeah, don't judge me. I'm gonna be straight up. I did pretty much nothing on night 2. I played 3-1 and kinda left FNAF 3 on its own. I did look around out of pure curiosity when the level got slow, but there are no active animatronics on night 1. No phantoms, no Springtrap. Nothing. Very anticlimactic. I was way too embarrassed to even talk about night 2. But you guys are here to watch me beat PVZ and FNAF at the same time, so here it is. First of all, let's start with the AI levels. Springtrap, Phantom Mango, and Phantom Balloon Boy all have a level of 2. Thankfully, I have fast reflexes, so the phantoms will never be a problem. But yeah, although Springtrap does have an AI level of 2, somehow he feels like he's Sonic the Hedgehog. So what made this so embarrassing is that I did indeed die in this night. For reference, I haven't really played FNAF 3 as much as other games. I think FNAF 3 is really boring, to be honest. I mean, of course it's going to be. Only one animatronic can kill you. It's also just a little annoying sometimes. The static and lighting on the cameras are a pain, so I lose Springtrap so easily, especially since he camouflages with the room. And obviously, if I'm paying attention to 3-2, it's easier to lose him. Which is what happened. I lost him in the cameras, and eventually he reached my doorway, killing me. The second time I died, I had no idea what happened at first. But after looking back at the footage, I realized the problem. When Springtrap enters the vent, there's an audio cue, and only an audio cue to let me know. There's also an audio cue for when Springtrap moves. When I'm on PVZ, the audio for FNAF 3 does turn off, even though the game's still running. There is a fix for this, but I don't really figure that out until after night 3, so you'll see. But the reason why I died was because typically when I'm switching tasks, I go on PVZ to play as I wait. I missed a vent audio cue while on PVZ, which is real unlucky, and he was able to reach me and kill me since the vents lead directly into the office. But yeah, let's pretend like I didn't just die 2 times on the second night. I won eventually. There are minigames each time you beat a night as well, so I was able to beat 3-2 during this segment as well, so I could beat it at the same time. Night 3 was worse. Way worse, which I don't understand because Springtrap's AI level only went up 1, yet it feels like he's a tad more aggressive now. What I typically do is trap him between Camo 9 and Cam 10, and when there are tasks to do, like I said, I would go over, reload whatever error there is, and go to PVZ, but I can't listen to FNAF 3 sounds. So again, I cannot hear him when he's moving or when he's switching towards the vent, which means I died a lot. Unless I got lucky and would hear him go in the vent when I'm on the game and not on PVZ, it feels like he only moves whenever I decide to switch to Plants vs Zombies. What I did is what I did in the night stages. Once I have an ideal setup, or at least enough to handle the zombies, I mostly ignore PVZ, purely to concentrate on FNAF 3, and make sure that not only can I find Springtrap and make sure he doesn't proceed too far, but to trap him in the vent before he can immediately direct himself into my office. I also need to prioritize ventilation tasks more than anything, since a ventilation error can make Springtrap's AI more aggressive, causing him to move faster than usual. So this night felt like a night of luck, when it's usually not supposed to be. So night 4 is when I decided that I indeed need to fix the audio problem. With how much Springtrap moves from rooms to vents, I do need those audio cues. They are essential, so I went back to collecting Fusion, and I had to check one little box. Do not mute samples when the application Lucas loses focus. Literally that's all. That one unchecked box was what was messing me up. So now, I can't get super unlucky and lose cues when I'm switching to PVZ. So in this night, Springtrap and the gang are pretty aggressive, with Springtrap and mostly all the Phantoms having an AI level of 4, except for Phantom Foxy, who has an AI level of 1/25. The reason why his AI level is in a fraction is because he has a 1/25 chance to spawn every time the camera is flipped, so he's more randomized. Fun fact though, his chance is not reset once you flip the camera, so you have to be careful with him as he doesn't disappear immediately. My strategy for this night is that I can't get jump scared by phantoms at all. I do not need any distractions, as most of them can cause ventilation errors, or something even worse, like the phantom puppet, which doesn't let you use the camera period. Most annoying phantom ever, honestly. Because this gives Springtrap a lot of boom and opportunities. FNAF 3, Night 4, and 3-4. Ironic to be honest. Spoiler alert, I died. And in the most annoying way possible. So I was reloading the ventilation, and a few seconds before I stopped, I would hear Springtrap going into the vent. Keep in mind, I'm already reaching a great setup in PVZ. Snow peas are great in selling the level out like I mentioned before. After I finish reloading the ventilation, I immediately, as fast as possible, go in the camera to seal the vent. I see him in the vent, and as I'm sealing it, he leaves and kills me. I would have been angrier if it was around 4 or 5 AM. It was only 2 AM, but still, it only makes it a little less frustrating. Thankfully, this was the only time I did die. Even if my next playthrough was absolute hell, I pulled through. Springtrap entered my vent what felt like 100 times, and I actually did encounter Phantom Puppet. Turns out, if you look at her for more than 0.1 milliseconds, she decides to appear in your office. I generally thought I was done for once she popped up. I did reach 6 AM, and I still had a lot more of 3-4, so I progressed further as I did the Foxy minigame, and beat the rest on night 5. Speaking of night 5, FNAF 3 Night 5 is considered fairly difficult. Everyone's AI levels are up to 5, which in FNAF 1 or 2, that isn't necessarily that high, but in this game, everything is completely luck-based. That's why I believe FNAF 3 is kind of iffy, because yeah, FNAF 2 is still very RNG, but oh god, FNAF 3 is way worse with the implementation of tasks. If you're doing a task and midway through, Springtrap does go into the vent, you're dead no matter what, especially on this kind of night. But anyway, I was able to finish off 3-4, which leads us to the Big Trouble Little Zombie minigame. This level is a little harder than previous ones with the fact that, first of all, they are much bigger in numbers. Yes, they are weak, but the level does send a lot of them because of that. Second, you only have pea shooters, walnuts, and some cherry bombs, which means it's a little harder to apprehend them. And third, zombies are 2 times faster, which means my reaction time has to be quick in Plants vs Zombies than the usual. And this is night 5 we're talking about. Because of this, I'm not gonna lie, I can lose Springtrap so much easier. Once Springtrap does leave Cam 08, I'm cooked. It's time to throw in the towel, because once he's there, there's no turning back. So yeah, the combination of dealing with these little quick zombies combined with dealing a quick Springtrap, I think you viewers can see why I might have struggled a bit. And that's why I died the first time. I was occupied with quick armies of little zombies, and eventually I did lose Springtrap in the process of going back and forth. It wasn't going so well in PVZ anyway. The conveyor level decided to take its sweet time to give me pea shooters today. For my second try, I was actually able to save myself at first though. Springtrap was leaning on my doorway looking at me, but I was able to lead Springtrap back on Camo 1. But like I said, if Springtrap is not around Camo 8 or Camo 9, I'm screwed. So even if he went back in 01, I had to reset the ventilation and I died. I got jump scared by the most boring jump scare I've ever seen. No offense. There's a reason why Scott decided to make another one. For context, one of the reasons why there was a FNAF 4 in the first place is because of the jump scares. Gotta say, FNAF 4 in my opinion is the scariest game, so he did succeed in the scary factor there. My third time, generally have no idea how I died. It was around 1 AM and I was restarting the audio devices and ventilation. I guess I missed an audio cue of some kind because by the time I finished and went towards the camera to toggle the map, I was jump scared before I could check the vents. This is what I meant by RNG being heavily incorporated into FNAF 3. I died purely by being unlucky in my task, and Springtrap decided to switch to the vents at that current moment. Horrible timing. For my third try, I progressed further and around 4 AM, I was able to beat 3-5. Which was a little relieving. As for the remainder of night 5, I can start playing 3-6, so it'll be a much slower experience. I only finished 10% on 3-6 as I got to 6 AM. I just stalled Springtrap and kept them around the beginning cameras, avoided the phantoms. I did encounter Phantom Puppet again, and I thought I was done for, but somehow I survived. I did reach some of 3-6 while giving Purple Guy his karma, and this is when I realized it looks like my math was wrong. I will be playing FNAF 4, and I'm terrified. FNAF 4 scares me to death. I guess we'll see how it goes. There are no words for how bad I am in FNAF 4, and how difficult it is for me. I have played it before, but little me was terrified of the nightmare, so I didn't really play it much. Okay, I really wasn't that little, but still. And now that I'm playing it again, I can see why I was. If you viewers know anything about the 4th game, the game forces you to keep your game all the way up at full volume so you can listen to sounds. This means that when you get jump scared, you're gonna hear it at max volume. I believe one of the problems with FNAF 4 that I've noticed is that once I keep the door closed, I can't just leave it and go to Plants vs Zombies. I do have to hold shift, meaning I cannot play PVZ at the same time. This isn't a big deal at all once I have a strategy, but during the beginning, which is when collecting sudden stunning zombies is most important, that's when it's a problem. But whatever, let's stop being pessimistic and let's go over the first night. FNAF 4 Night 1 is notorious for being the first Night 1 where something does actually happen.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
This means that I can't leave FNAF 4 on its own like I've done with the other games, and I actually have to pay attention. Around 2 AM at least, as that's when both Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Chica's AI goes up to 1. Then they increase around 3 AM and it stays that way, and that's around the time I died. I was able to successfully beat 3-6, but during the early stages of 3-7, Nightmare Bonnie came to my hall. I closed it, and once I opened it, you're supposed to hear breaths, but I guess my ears decided to fail me, and I got jumped. Then it happened again, when I had 5 3-peaters on my lawn already. I wanted to grab Nightmare Bonnie and squish him and kill him. Yeah, I was more embarrassed than when I died in FNAF 3 Night 2. It was a genuine skill issue on my part. For the 3rd time, the nightmares decided to disappear and let me beat the night without sweating my face off. I beat the minigame, failed miserably at Plosh Trap, and finished almost all of 3-7. It is shocking how many times I died on the 2nd night. I'm genuinely appalled. I died again and again and again. All because of Nightmare Bonnie, the vein of my existence. I genuinely have no excuse other than that I'm deaf and cannot listen to his breaths, as well as his footsteps. I think they're meant to be incredibly quiet, or I'm not keeping the door closed long enough, which I believe is also the case. What I did wrong is when you let go of the door, you're not supposed to hear the sound immediately. You're gonna have to wait 3 seconds, then you'll hear breaths if you pay attention. Nightmare Bonnie and Chico are pretty aggressive for the 2nd night, with AI levels from 5 to 7 as the night goes on. It always pains me to close the door for a long time and have to ignore the sun dropping in PVZ. But with my volume cramped all the way up and a great 3-peater and Torchwood setup, I was able to beat Night 2 and most of 3-7. I also figured out how to do Plush Trap finally. It's actually pretty simple and really easy if you think about it. You just have to pay attention to the pattern. What I mean by this is that typically there are 4.5 sounds that you'll have to listen to. Starting with his small footsteps, then quick footsteps, and midway through the last small footsteps, you flash him immediately, and you should be able to catch him on the X. Night 3 really has me convinced that FNAF 4 is one of the hardest games, and with the fact that I have an entire tower defense game playing in the background, it just makes it even more difficult. I have to play what I consider a complete difficulty spike night with 3-9, which isn't a PVZ level you can simply ignore like usual, with the fact that you have to concentrate on the Disco Zombie, then Zambonis and Dolphin Zombies. For context, they're my least favorite zombies because they're so annoying, and Disco Zombies being in the game means that the level will be extra packed with zombies. So I just use the 2 best counters, Ton Nuts and Jalapenos. Emphasis on the Jalapenos as they're quick and easy so I can concentrate on FNAF 4 more than anything. But anyways, let's talk about Night 3. I believe the reason why Night 3 is so hard is the implementation of Nightmare Foxy. Let's talk about Nightmare Foxy and how I was able to handle him. Let's start with explaining how he works. Nightmare Foxy starts in the middle of both halls. Think of it as a spawn point. He can go from left to right. There are audio cues that play that let you know if he's going to the left or to the right. There's audio cues for everything in this game. Depending on where he is, you can follow his steps and flash whatever hallway he's in. That's why there is a chance you could see him in the hall. That's a visual cue that you caught him. Flashing him can prevent him from entering the closet, and here I thought he would typically just teleport there. No, you can actually keep him at bay. If you, the player though, check the opposite hallway from the one he's in, he will immediately jump into your closet, and he will stay in your closet forever. With how annoying Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Chica can be, especially when their AI levels are now 7 to 10, I cannot have Nightmare Foxy stay in there, as that means I'll have to check the left door, the right door, my bed, PVZ, and then the closet. That's just adding more to my plate. It says a lot that the times I did die are when Nightmare Foxy did enter my closet. He's fast, so of course he would end up there sometimes. Before I beat the night, funny enough, there was actually a brief small moment in 3-9 where I did struggle slightly. I only had 1 lane of snow peas and 1 lane of 3-peaters in disposal, as I didn't have much time to pay attention to 3-9 with how active I had to be in FNAF 4 with following Nightmare Foxy's sounds and taking care of the other 2 animatronics. So when zombies did raise up from the water, A row of 3 zombies were able to get fairly close to my mowers, and I did not have the pill cleaners. Thank goodness I brought jalapeno, or else there was a possibility that I did lose this level, forcing me to restart FNAF 4's night. I would have been infuriated. But yeah, this night was really stressful. It felt so relieving once I reached 6 AM. Night 4, believe it or not, felt oddly easier than Night 3. Although I had this curse of beating Plus Trap and having the extra hours, and no matter what, I always died that said first try, losing these said hours. Nightmare Bonnie continues to be my greatest enemy. Anyway, the reason why Night 4 is so easy is because from 12 AM to 2 AM, Nightmare Foxy only has an AI level of 5, only switching to 10 once it hits 3 AM. While on Night 3, he had an AI level of 10 from 12 to 6, aka the whole night. Oh, and PVZ blessed me with a conveyor level, and granted me so much repeaters. This means that Plants vs Zombies was not a problem at all, and I was able to concentrate mostly on FNAF 4. There's not much else to say about this night. I did my usual pattern of following Nightmare Foxy's sounds, I beat 310, and progressed to 4-1. But now, it's time for Night 5, FNAF 4's most intense out of all the 5 nights, with the introduction of Nightmare Fredbear. Nightmare Fredbear in this night in particular takes over the role of all the nightmares, and works pretty similar to them too. Mostly like Nightmare Foxy to be specific. What I mean by this is that you could actually use audio cues to know where Nightmare Fredbear is supposed to go, just like Nightmare Foxy. But Fredbear doesn't only go to the left and right hallway, he can also go towards the closet, either by how Foxy does, which does have no audio cue, but he can also teleport sometimes towards it as well. But thankfully when he does teleport, there actually is a sound, where he laughs. Granted, he's devious and can do a fake out laugh, but that's not like it'll be too much of a bother. He can also teleport onto the bed, and you'll hear laughter for that as well. I use these sounds to keep track of where Fredbear is. This means that while I'm on PVZ, I don't have to worry about running left, right, behind me, forward, etc. because I already know where he's going based on audio cues. Obviously it isn't all the time, and I will admit he's pretty fast, but when I'm on 4-1 or 4-2, I'm able to identify where he is, so as soon as I'm done planting down there, I'll immediately go to whatever direction I believe Fredbear's in afterwards, whether it's a hall or checking both the bed or closet. It did take me a bit to get adjusted. I died really early in my first try, but for my second try, it was really rage-inducing. The reason why is because it just hit 5 AM, I was nervous, I was nearing the end, when suddenly, I would go towards the left doorway, and I was just about to close the door, but Nightmare Fredbear killed me a millisecond afterwards. My third try definitely went a little better, mostly because I won, 6 AM. I was also able to beat most of 4-2, and watch the crying child get bitten by Fredbear. Cool, I guess. With that, guys, I was able to beat FNAF 4 while playing Plants vs Zombies at the same time. I really did not think I'd get this far, yet here we are. Gotta say, I played a lot more FNAF games than I thought I would for now. And here I thought I'd only get to FNAF 1 and 2. For now, we have 2 mainline games left, FNAF Sister Location and FNAF Pizza Simulator. And we have most of the fog levels and roof levels to go for Plants vs Zombies. I'm excited to see where it goes. For now, guys, that's about it. Honestly, thank you for watching, and if you want more challenges like these, like and subscribe. It helps a lot. See ya.